Hey guys, it's Susan from Sisforsucculents, and I had a question on YouTube regarding an old video I did on this plant, and it was titled something about being crested and having to cut it, and she was a bit confused as to what cresteds are because apparently she's bought a Fred Eyes crested and she's not quite sure if it really is. So I'm going to address that and show you and explain to you what I believe a crested is. So I've grabbed another plant here. It's actually the same type of plant, which is a Douglas Huff. I think they're Graptivarius. And this one is probably a truer version of a crest because from what I understand, a crest is when lots of leaves grow out of one point, and it's like a growing mutation. That's why it gets all dense and, you know, a bit chaotic looking. And what tends to happen is the stems will really widen like that. I'll just show you the other side. So I would call that a true crest in my opinion. Just a little side note, see those marks there? That's my bad. I did that because I'm a little bit compulsive about removing leaves that are starting to dry. See, like that one is half dry. And, you know, if you pull it off and rip it down, you can remove some of the skin. So don't do that. Okay, so coming back to the original plant, technically now it's probably not really classed as crested. Parts of it are, but another thing about cresteds is they can revert back to the normal plant. And this one, in the original video, it was really top heavy with some real crested parts, and I removed them. I think it was here and in there. I chopped them off. So I probably cut off the parts of it that were more crested. But you can see it still has that wider stem there, and this head here is actually cresting. So it's partially crested, really, and I did cut off the parts that were more crested. And incidentally, I don't have them to show because I've sold them, but talking about those dry leaves, there's one there, it's driving me nuts. And obviously that one there. A little side note, if you like your succulents to be a little bit leggy, pulling these off early will distort the shape of the stem. I'll talk about that in another video. But incidentally, let's have a look at this part now as just general maintenance for this. Look at all these air roots. So technically I could cut that off and reset that as a new plant, probably just keeping a part of that stem with the roots in it to help it establish itself. So it's quite a pretty face, isn't it? Okay, here I have another crested. So let's, identify it. It's got the bushy, dense growing points. It's got width to the stem, but you can see it's got two different legs, so rather than one big fat stem. So cresteds can grow in many different ways, and I think that's what makes them beautiful, is their uniqueness. Incidentally, these three separate plants I've shown you, they're all the same one, and you can see the colour varies a lot. Like this one has more purpley tones, the other one had more green tones, and the first original one has gone really pink. It really, they all are in different parts of my garden, and they're all getting different types of light, so I just thought I'd explain that. So this is a different type of succulent. It's a Patchovaria, and this is probably what we're more used to a crest looking like. Probably a bit more familiar where the leaves are really packed in there on this one. Let's have a look at the other side. I really like this side better actually. This side wasn't the side that is pointing outwards where it was placed, you know what I mean? So that's a pretty one too. So that's definitely a crest. Just in regards to propagation, you could propagate this by making, you know, cutting pieces off and, you know, rerouting them and re-establish them. That's one way to propagate crests. I'm not doing that to this one. I really like how it looks at the moment. Now, all of this was one plant that I had out my front garden, and I noticed that the base of it was getting root rot. So I was able to salvage all of this, which I'm really pleased about. But I was a little bit sad because the way it was growing, it was quite beautiful. But now some of these pieces will still grow as cresteds. Like this is a good example. So see all that, you know, lots of leaves growing from the one point. Though the stem isn't really flat. It may do that as it grows, I don't know. But I would still call that crested. Some other pieces that came off it like that is not a crest. It was just a squashed in rosette. This one's getting that splayed stem, so that works. And it's got lots of leaves growing out of the one point, so they'll probably grow into a nice crested. This is sort of the main part of it. And you see on the left there, those rosettes are cresting with lots of leaves growing out of the one spot. These other rosettes, not so much. So as that grows as an individual, you know, as its own succulent, technically I guess you could say it only be partially crested, though these rosettes may do that or they may not. So that one's sort of like, I don't know what the term is for it. I'm just going to call it partially crested. Anyway, they are gorgeous, and I'm looking forward to seeing these root up. That's a nice piece. I'll insert a photo of what it used to look like. My poor baby. And another thing about cresteds, I've noticed if you leaf propagate, you've got a high chance of getting a little crested baby. For example, see that one there? Let me pull it out a little bit. Oh, let's have a look at that one. See how the stem is wide and it's got multiple leaves on top? I've noticed that tends to happen when you propagate with leaves. I think it's got to do with nature and, you know, it's trying to give itself the best chance to grow by throwing out a lot of leaves. Though I can't say you're always guaranteed that it will stay crested, because I think as they mature, they tend to just revert back to a normal plant. Well, I hope that answered your question. I hope that was informative to other people. I am just telling you what I believe. I'm not an expert. I haven't done horticultural classes. I'm just talking about my experiences and what I know. So hopefully you found that helpful. Anyway, it has been freezing in Melbourne the last couple of days, and I'm cold and it's time to go in. Catch us all later. Bye.